He's Rebel. Rebel Snodgrass from All American Exteriors. Good to have you on the program, my friend. I've seen you on so many TV commercials over the years. It's finally cool to meet you.
Well, thank you. I thank you very much.
So how long have you been in business at All American Exteriors?
Going on, well, All American Exteriors, I started 10 years into business.
Okay.
I've got two companies. One's Rebels Custom Design, and it does interior work, and then we have All American Exteriors, and it does just the exterior envelope of the home.
Okay, and that's where people saw you on the commercials.
Yes.
Standing on the roof all the time.
Yeah, standing on the roof and all kinds of different places, yeah.
But you had a lot of fun making those commercials, though, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been kind of, it's been a ride. Sometimes it's a lot worse than you think. The commercial boils it down to just 30 seconds, and sometimes I shoot 7 or 8 minutes to get that good 30 seconds.
Of course, we know what that's all about. But now you're still doing all kinds of great work in the metro, aren't you?
Thank you. Yes, yeah, we are actually. I mean, we're growing, and we've been growing every year since I started All American Exteriors, and I'm blessed for that. Blessed for that.
What are the big issues people are wondering about this time of year for home improvement?
Really, it's two things. One is siding, and the other is roofing. Obviously, when you get a day like yesterday and it's really raining, you don't need a roof repaired until it's raining.
That's when you realize.
It comes to front of mind when it's raining out.
So in the middle of the winter, everything's fine. Your roof works perfectly, right?
Right. But once she starts raining, then people start thinking, it's time to get that taken care of, and so that's a big one. And then siding issues. People don't really do a lot of siding in the wintertime, so in the spring we get a big bump of people calling for siding.
I thought about you Saturday night because I knew you were going to be on the show, and we had a lot of quarter size, golf ball size, even baseball size hail in Iowa. Now I've been through this a couple years ago. What happens when you have a storm like that go through a community? All of a sudden, all these people descend upon the town. Some of them are people you know, like you. Some of them are people you don't know from out of town. How should people deal with that situation?
I tell people that you want to deal with a local company. The main reason is if you do have an issue later, you want a company that you can get a hold of. And so it's always best to do local. Start local and then go out from there.
Okay, now if people do have some damage from the storms that Jason just talked about, there's a bunch of different options when it comes to roofing materials themselves. What do you think works the best in this type of environment?
Well, first off, I'd like to say that in roofing, if you have hail, you need to have it inspected, because you only have a certain amount of time before insurance companies will no longer allow you to go off of that catastrophic date. It's called the CAT date. And so if there's hail, and what it'll do is it breaks the fiber down in the shingle, and then the aggregate starts to come off. Well, you don't realize it for a year or two later down the road, when then it really starts to go, because the UV rays can now get to the paper, dry it out faster, and it's like running down the hill. By the time you get down to the bottom, you're hoping you keep your feet underneath you. Well, your shingle will just start to dry and curl, and it goes faster and faster.
Well, I didn't realize that.
And so you need to have it inspected, because if you don't catch that date, then it's going to come out of your pocket.
And let me jump in on you here a second. The hail that we had that caused us to get a new roof wasn't that big. It was marble-sized hail, but the winds that drove it were 70 miles an hour plus. And so we didn't even have that big a hail, but we still had to replace the roof.
But to clarify, if you wait a year or two later, and that's when you realize,
I'm not sure. Different companies are different, but like 2 years, I think is pretty standard. If it goes past the 2-year date, then you're on your own to pay for it.
But with the naked eye, you might not be able to see any damage at all. From down here, it looks fine. Okay, thankfully we had no roof damage from down here.
I do this for a living. I had hail on one of my rental properties 2 years ago, and I'm like, I'm going to be there when the adjuster comes out, because everybody's heard those horror stories, and I'm like, I'm not going to be taken advantage of,
Well, like, what's a horror story that you would have heard?
Well, where the insurance companies go, nope, there's no damage, and then they don't pay when they should. And you've got to have heard, there's horror stories in every industry. But so I went up on the roof with this guy. He actually seen more hail damage than I did, and I do it 100 times a year. And this guy's like, well, he was wearing UV glasses, like he used Ray-Ban like for fishing. But he's like, you can see better with those. I'm like, hey, get me some of those.
Fish finders.
This little tiny. You said how big was the hail that hit your house?
The hail. I mean, this was marble. I mean, it wasn't that big a hail, but the winds were 75 or so.
We've came into the hail belt now, our area, and it didn't used to be.
The hail belt.
The hail belt. We are part of the hail about. So a couple things have happened. Insurance companies have started taking and putting riders in. So if you put a steel roof on, they no longer cover aesthetics. So if you put a painted steel roof on and you get hail and it dings it up and it looks terrible, that's not a payout. You live with that. It's not like your car where you go in and they repair it. So that's something to take into consideration. But if you move into a Class 4 roof system, which is rated to 2.5-inch diameter hail, if you move into that, most of them will give you a caveat, and it used to be really small. But sometimes it's up all the way to 30% savings on your homeowner's insurance now for moving up into that type of a roof system.
So you pay a little more, but it pays off.
You pay it in the front. Most of the time, if you go into like a stone-coated steel roofing, it takes about 8 years, and the difference between asphalt and steel is paid off, and now that roof's making you money.
Well, I've never heard of that before.
So it's just kind of doing the investment up front. You know, I tell people it pays out better than your 401k.
Now, if you get hail on one of those steel roofs, does it sound like someone's doing a drum solo during that?
No. As a matter of fact, if it's a stone-coated roof system...
So you actually just said stone-coated steel roof as compared to the regular steel roofs that you might have seen in the paper recently. Yeah,
you can get the painted steel, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's better than asphalt roofing, but it's lesser expensive. But when you go into the stone-coated, I mean, a perfect example, I'm in Marshalltown. I'm thinking this has got to be a sale because it's literally 2 blocks from a roof I put on a year ago. And the guy's holding a piece of my product. And I said, well, you know the fella down the road? He says, yeah. I said, I put that roof on a year ago. He says, yeah, but that's asphalt. I said, no, it's what you're holding in your hand.
Really? So you can't tell. You really can't.
You really can't. You know, now I can. Anytime you're watching TV and you see commercials, because so much of it's done out in Hollywood, and our company's out of Oceanside, California, that produces the product, you see it everywhere because it's also fire rated in California. You know, with fires, they've got pictures of 2 houses with our roof on it, and all the rest of the neighborhood is burnt down because that steel roof protected them.
Oh, the cinders landing on it.
Yeah, you can start a fire on it and it just won't burn.
Wow. Now, compared to regular roofing shingles, what does a steel roof compare price-wise?
About twice.
About
it's
twice
going to run you about twice.
All right.
Yeah, and it may not quite be because I haven't got price increases on it.
That's close enough, though.
Yeah.
That's about double the cost, but you're more than double in the protection.
But the asphalt has just been going up so fast. You know, I mean, like right now, what I charge to put an asphalt roof on, and I do a real good job. And I tell people I'm going to treat you very special because you're going to put my steel one on the next time I replace it, and I'm still going to be in business. You know,
but he's being honest with you.
It's the truth.
That?
You know, it's the truth. But because the average asphalt roof only lasts 10 years in the state of Iowa, and you can get them, and it'll say 50-year warranty and all that. But read the small print and see all the reasons that they have not to pay.
And steel roof, how long?
Steel roof, my steel roof has a 50-year warranty, non-pro rated, unlimited transfers. No. Okay. Unlimited transfers and no transfer fees. That house can sell 30 times in 50 years. When I put a roof on, I go right in the server at California. I register that house or that building. That roof now has a 50-year warranty. That's just the warranty. That's not counting, how long it's going to last. So it's a better product.
Interesting.
All right.
I never even heard of
there's
that.
A lot of folks,
I didn't know any of this.
A lot of folks out there looking at this stuff this week. There was a lot of hail Saturday night. So it's
Rebel, you're coming back. I know that for a fact.
Okay, where does Rebel come from? Is that your God-given name that your mom said? There you go.
My full name is Orville Rebel Cummings Snodgrass III. And the first time I read
Orville?
Yeah.
I go by Orville.
Oh, the popcorn guy. You don't get confused with the popcorn
No, that's Orville. Or he's Orville.
Oh, Orville.
Oh. That's fighting words. They used to do that to me in school. I don't like that.
We'll stick with Rebel.
There you go.
Well done, Rebel.
What do you have against popcorn?
I love popcorn. I just can't have it on my diet.
You're like,
thank you very much. That was awesome. Beautiful. It's 2 minutes past 8 o'clock. We'll be right back.